Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're unpacking a piece of source material that, seems incredibly simple on the surface, but it actually holds this radical, totally world-flipping teaching. We're looking at a deeply familiar story of Jesus and the children, and we're going to decode the massive implications it holds for our modern lives. Okay, let's dive into this, because this isn't just some sweet little story about kids. No, it is a profound dismantling of how we actually measure human worth. Picture this, we get dropped right into the middle of a scene. It's messy, it's everyday life, and boom, there's immediate tension. You have these earnest parents bringing their kids forward to see Jesus, but then his own followers, the disciples, literally the people you would least expect, are actively trying to shut it down. They're surprisingly acting like bouncers, right? Putting up a velvet rope and trying to keep these families out. You've got to wonder, why would they do that? Well, that brings us to section 1, the unexpected confrontation. A true collision of perspectives. What we're really witnessing here is two completely different frameworks for what's actually important, just crashing into each other in real time. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. Take the parents' motive. It's so simple, so pure. They aren't asking for a massive theological debate or some complex miracle. They just want a touch of divine favor, a simple blessing for their children. They see Jesus, and in him, they just see hope. But then, look at the disciples' motive. To them, this whole thing is just an annoying interruption. They're protecting Jesus' time based on a very worldly idea of who matters and who doesn't. They've decided that children, who honestly had zero social standing back then, are just a nuisance getting in the way of important work. That sets up section 2, the pivot, where Jesus flips the script. Because Jesus is about to completely dismantle this social ladder of importance. It's a dramatic narrative reversal. He doesn't just politely disagree with his followers. He issues a swift, definitive correction. Stop getting in their way. You have to understand, this is not a gentle, passive suggestion. This is a command. He stops his own followers dead in their tracks to prevent them from blocking the very people he says the kingdom is meant for. It turns the disciples' entire understanding of importance totally inside out. This isn't just about being polite. It's a fundamental rewiring of their whole value system. The perfect irony of this moment is that Jesus rebukes the people who were doing the rebuking. Then he calls the children close to him. He elevates the overlooked over the self-important. And the ultimate takeaway here is that he affirms their worth is a given. It's not something they have to earn or prove. He honors those who literally have absolutely zero societal leverage. Which leads us to section 3, the core metaphor, childlike, not childish. We're shifting from the physical confrontation on the dusty road to the abstract theology behind it. Like, what does Jesus actually mean when he says the kingdom belongs to such as these? The child becomes a powerful metaphor, and it's the absolute key to understanding this entire text. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that we have to ensure we don't confuse a childlike posture with being childish. Being childlike doesn't mean you're naive. It doesn't mean you're ignorant or immature. It's a highly specific spiritual posture. It is a state of deep trust, profound humility, and a complete openness to simply receiving a gift without needing to analyze it or negotiate for it. So, how do we actually adopt that posture? The source breaks it down into 3 concrete actions. Step 1, you have to shed the illusion of self-sufficiency, that sneaky idea that you've got it all perfectly under control. Step 2, you have to trust without demanding all the proof up front, much like a small child naturally trusts a loving parent. And step 3, man, this is the most difficult one for us. You have to learn to receive, not achieve. As adults, our brains are so heavily wired to earn, to deserve, and to accomplish that the act of simply receiving feels entirely foreign to us. You cannot earn your way in. It can only be received with completely open hands. This is the core of the entire thing, and it deeply challenges our adult wiring. We want to bring our resumes, our accomplishments, our important work, just like the disciples did. But the kingdom's economy is entirely different. It acts as a total disruption to literally everything we've been taught about how to succeed. And that brings us to section 4, the grand contrast between world culture and kingdom culture. This is the ideological climax of this explainer, where Jesus lays out 2 completely opposite economies of worth. It's a world turned completely upside down. Let's move to and see how this builds. The comparison is absolutely stark. In our worldly culture, worth has to be earned. You hunt for it. Status has to be constantly sought after. And fierce independence is celebrated as the ultimate goal. But look at the kingdom culture. Worth is already given. Humility is exalted above status. And vulnerability isn't a weakness. Actually, dependence on God is defined as your absolute greatest strength. It is a systematic inversion of reality as we know it. But this is where the source material gets very serious. Just in case anyone thinks this is merely a nice, fluffy idea, there's a severe warning attached. This posture of receiving is a non-negotiable entry requirement. Pride and self-sufficiency literally act as a locked door. They block your way in. If your hands are full of your own self-importance, you simply cannot physically open them to receive the gift that's being offered. So let's look at Section 5, the modern challenge, unlearning adulthood. What does this 2,000-year-old story have to do with us right now? Pretty much everything. This is where we bring the radical relevance of this text directly into your everyday life and examine the monumental task of unlearning adulthood. Honestly, this teaching is arguably more countercultural today than it was back then. Think about the specific traits our modern culture celebrates and rewards right now. We're trained to maintain constant skepticism. We applaud fierce independence and radical self-reliance. We're trapped in the cycle of endless achievement. Everything on this list perfectly opposes the requirements of the kingdom. We are essentially trained every single day to act exactly like the disciples acting as bouncers. So, the crucial point is that we're left with a profound invitation. It's a call to actively unlearn the cynicism and self-reliance that adulthood just relentlessly drills into us. We're invited to relearn the wonder, the trust, and the openness of a child. This isn't just a small behavioral tweak, folks. It is a total transformation of our spiritual posture. And that leaves us with this final, lingering thought from the source material. I really want you to think about this as we wrap up today's explainer. In a modern culture that is absolutely built on earning, proving, and achieving, what are the specific things that you need to unlearn so that you can finally step away from the velvet rope, drop your resume, and approach God with completely open hands, ready to simply receive?